guys, I'm Layla. Today we are in Raid Shadow Legends. We're going to be reading the lore story for Vulkanos Fumar. He happens to be the new faction Unity champ for Demon Spawn. But oh hey, I'm not alone. Look who we got. We got Papa Tez. What's up?
Hello again.
Oh
I kind of
hi.
like it here. It's cozy.
So, what we're joking around about here, if you guys missed it, is Papa Tez joined me for three lore stories recently for Hansel, Gretel, and Nell. Basically, the whole kind of like trilogy story for, the witch, the gingerbread witch, the gingerbread house, the kids, basically like the whole like Halloween event that was going on. So, if you guys missed those videos per chance, I will have links down below. Check them out. We had a good time, and I'm sure we made some very weird faces because those stories were creepy.
Oh my goodness, when I tell you the creep level was turned up beyond 10,000, those were some of the creepiest stories that I've ever seen. But they were so well done, and it
Yeah.
gave you kind of like a really fleshed out the characters so you kind of understand who they are and why they look like the way they look, which is really cool too.
Yeah, and so I'm really looking forward to that with this guy because he looks really cool. And like I said, he's the faction unity champ for the demon spawn. So I'd love to know, I'm hoping that they kind of dive into that a bit because he looks cool, right? What do you think of him aesthetically?
When I tell you that this lighting just looks so spot on, like as you
Yeah.
turn him around, this gigantic, just amazing looking crest with just the little skull with the horns on it, and just
Yeah.
he looks so cool. It's just like Drexstar just got like a complete makeover,
Uh-huh.
and he's just super cool now.
He's so cool. And you guys know I'm big like Lord of the Rings nerd. So already I'm like Balrog. I'm like, that looks so
Yeah,
cool. Just like
that is
looking at this
true.
thing here.
Yeah,
Like they just
that's
they
so
nailed
cool.
it again. But when does Raid not nail it? They're fantastic with their art. So to your point, like he looks so cool.
They're
Mm-hmm.
getting better and better. To me, I like aesthetically, this is just one of the best looking ones that I've seen, at least in kind of like a suit of armor.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just kind of like the lighting that's just shining off perfectly on him. He looks radiant.
Radiant. I love that. He looks radiant. Like literally.
Yeah.
He's radiating.
Exactly.
So, guys, before we get into Laura's story, I will have some links down below for Papa Tez. He is on Twitch, he's on YouTube, so make sure you do all the stuff. Click all the buttons, do the follows, the subscribes, the likes. Make sure you guys do that. And we are going to read the lore story for Vulkanos. I hope you enjoy. As Thorjek Lamasu is loyal to Serath, Vulkanos Fumor is loyal to her. She has little ambition to rule over all creation, as she does, but in her eternal struggle to dominate all, she has provided Vulcanos with hundreds of battles and sieges, and for that alone, she has unshakable devotion. The shriek of massive projectiles speeding through smogging air, the echoing, earth shaking clangor of a stone crashing against stone, the crackling of wooden doors splintering and fires burning, all are sweet music to Vulcanos' ears.
Even before he was a demon, Vulkanos was fascinated by the mortal race's building and studied their methods of construction and demolition thoroughly. Siros seduced him during the Great Divorce by giving him the opportunity to help bring down Lumea's fortress. The thought of destroying such a mighty edifice was salivating to Vulkanos. If he could destroy it, nothing was beyond his skill.
After the banishment of the firstborn, Vulcanos' enthusiasm for architecture and engineering became twisted by bitter hate and eternal longing. He was desperate to finish what he started. The creation of Demon Spawn allowed him the chance to see what great cities, walls, and spires had arisen on Teleria in his absence, and devise myriad ways to bring them crashing down.
Desiring a strong body to host his soul, Vulcanos sent agents to find one during the First Great War. They overpowered a knight of Karok and brought him with infernal chains of fire, roasting him alive in his armor. As his agony peaked, he was dragged through a portal to Anathrod to serve as Vulcanos' vessel. During their merging, the chains and armor fused together and melted onto the flesh of the former knight. Augmented with lethal spikes and blades, this aged coat of plate is what Vulcanos wears to this day. The knight's great sword, similarly twisted by demonic magic, channels Vulcanos' natural pyromantic might, glowing red hot as his merest touch.
Able to travel to Teleria thanks to his demon spawn form, Vulcanos longed to return. He swore himself to Lammasu, as he saw her as the most spirited and dedicated invader, one who would best give him opportunities to destroy the greatest fortifications and grandest palaces. In her service, he used his mastery of fire and magma to shape molten metal with his bare hands and forge red hot iron into parts of infernal siege engines. He pioneered catapults and ballistas that launched the projectiles with the force of infernal explosions, bombards that fired huge globs of molten slag, and battering rams that glowed with eternal fire, letting them ignite wooden gates as they crashed against them.
Though the First Great War was unsuccessful, as were the others, Volcanos never lost his spirit of ingenuity. He had made his most prized creations with the grafted bodies of lesser demon spawn, their own flesh and joints used to articulate the movement of the engines and their tormented agony, adding to the dark magic powering the devices. He relishes firing his own creations himself, using his superheated sword to light the fusions of cannons or to cut lines holding catapults in tension. As his mechanisms swing into action, he watches carefully for the tiniest deviations in angles and forces, for minuscule shudders and hitches, spots of unnecessary friction, and points of wear and tear. His scrupulous reviews ensure the next generation of war machines, which he plans to build with many more organic components, will be even more effective.
Despite his exacting and studious ways, Vulkanos is not merely a siege engineer content to watch his creations smash the enemy from afar. He longs for the moment when gates are shattered or walls crumble, creating a gap that he can lead a host through. Blazing sword in hand, he is always the first through the breach, heedless of the danger or tactical value of his presence elsewhere. He cannot resist the opportunity to behold the terror of mortals who had thought themselves secure, whose last hopes have been shattered along with the stone and mortar of their walls.
During Lamasu's great siege of Homescourt, Volcanos targeted the city's vulnerable and vital buildings with pinpoint accuracy, lobbing burning orbs and caustic globs over the walls to strike granaries, hospitals, stables, and wells. Several times, Volcanos and his diabolical devices blasted a breach in Homescourt's walls. By each time, he and his demon spawn vanguard were driven back and the breach sealed once again to his fury. His failures and Lamasu's ultimate success using the brute force tactic of a living ram of demon spawn bodies only drove Volcanos to greater heights of fiendish innovation and depraved designs. If Lamasu were to decide she no longer needed him, she would lose the power and influence he needs to continue following his grisly passions to their fullest extent.
All right, so that was the lore story for Volcanos. And I think something I like right off the bat that you and I talked about is like we were talking about his armor, and I like how they explained this look pretty early on in, I thought, right? What did you think?
They did. They just kind of like went right at it like, okay, this is how he was created. This is why he looks the way he was. Completely burned alive, and then all those things like melding together onto
Yeah.
his armor.
Yeah, and we find this kind of often, like with the demon spawn and the night revenants. Like they talk about vessels where they take like these other human bodies, these other parts, and they kind of like symbiote them together in some ways, right? And that's kind of like what we see here. To your point, is that they took this other warrior that had this knight that had all this armor, and yeah, just like everything kind of melted and molded with demonic prowess, and then now we have this.
Yeah, and I kind of was thinking about a little bit more too, a little bit of what you're saying as far as like I guess, the liveliness of these different things that happen.
Yeah.
And this guy here is just creating sentient
Yeah.
trebuchets and other things like that. I'm like, oh, it's kind of scary.
It is scary. And so as we're reading this, like he's the faction warlord, like unity champ, right, for Demon Spawn. So I love how they made him just like he's not just some demon. He's like some bullheaded demon. He's not a dummy. Like he's super intelligent. Like this guy's an engineer. He's creating war machines, like machines of like mass destruction here. And they even talk about creating what's with organic components. And I'm like, my God, what are they? What's the plan? They're just gonna invade Teleria and just murder the different factions and use them in their war machines. I'm like, wow. The fact that he's like envisioning this stuff, it can kind of explain why he's like the faction unity leader.
Exactly. You kind of see like just the ma- how meticulous he is to
Yeah.
me just also points to how meticulous his armor looks. Like
Yeah.
his armor looks absolutely incredible and it seems like everything is perfectly symmetrical and like everything is just right there in place. But that's just him also too, he's always just going in and looking at anything that
Hmm.
he's creating and trying to make it better. And
Yeah.
even after he had failed attempts in Teleria, as far as like raiding or trying to break into a wall, then it gets patched up, he gets stopped. He goes right back into
Hmm.
it and it just keeps driving him forward. And I also noticed too, I know you did just say like,
Hmm.
he's like super really smart, but
Yeah.
he's also like the first one who's in there. As soon as the wall
Yeah.
goes down, he's just like, I'm in here. What's up?
And exactly, I mean, and he's a faction unity champ, so I suppose that kind of just fits with all of that, right? Like they're
Yeah,
following
he's
him
a
in.
defensive
Someone's
champ.
got to go in, and he's that confident in what he's doing that he basically leads the charge, like you're saying, and they're right behind him with his banner.
Exactly. They're just holding on to his little banner in the back and just like jumping off of him. I just imagine that like maybe he
Yep.
has like okay, now this is me going on a tangent just really real quick.
Go right
I
ahead.
just imagine him just like going in and just growing to like this 30-foot tall thing
Oh
and
my
he
gosh,
has
yeah.
people on him and they just jump off and go in together.
Oh man, so funny. Guys, drop us some comments down below. What do you think for the story from Vulkanos Fumar? Did you enjoy it? You know, what do you think? Do you feel like we do? Is there something maybe that we didn't say that you're thinking, you're like, oh, hey, this actually kind of sounds like this? I'd love to know what you guys are thinking of this.
Yeah, would definitely love to hear it because this guy looks incredibly cool and I think you
Yeah.
all should. Yeah. He's definitely gonna be I think after reading that,
Mhm.
it always happens where you just want him even more, right?
Yeah. I mean, people already want him, but the fact they're like, okay, he's like really cool. Now I really want him.
hmm
Right? Oh, guys, and I want to thank Papa Tess again for joining. I will have some links down below. Make sure you check out some of the other videos that we've done together because I really have enjoyed this collab. You know, I appreciate that you taking the time to join with me. And now that, we're kind of through our little sequence and series, what do you got on the dock? I know that you're on Twitch, you're on YouTube. What are your plans?
Well, what I have planned, basically right now is we're still continuing a little bit into some of the Monster Hunter things,
Okay.
but for the most part, it is what I did recently was kind of put out a little small guide to help people because there was an issue with one of the clients in the game, just to
Oh,
kind of help them out.
okay.
So I was thinking about just looking at little small things like that that'll help out the community, at least for like the YouTube side of things,
Love
and
it.
also kind of making like more fun, super short, concise introductions into some of the characters in the games. And
Okay.
then for Twitch, I just pretty much look forward to the jumping jacks that they make me do almost every stream now.
Almost every stream, it's something. It's something when you're live streaming.
Mhm.
God help it. They make me
Exactly.
dance. They make you do jumping jacks. It's always something, isn't it?
It's always fun in the neighborhood, right?
Love it. Guys, make sure you check him out because I love the fact that he's helping the community with this Monster Hunter stuff. And yeah, I'm sure you want to see him do some jumping jacks. So make sure you hit his links down below. And again, Papa Taz, thank you so much for joining.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
It was great having you, and bye, guys.
See y'all.